I do have with me here Edward. Edward, happy to have you on here. Um, just a little brief background about the youth experience. This show is basically to help bring the experiences of young people. Um, most often we see people way older than us making decisions in our communities and in our environment. And I think that we also need to have a voice in some of these decisions. We need to have a voice in people understanding where we stand as a generation. So whether it be millennials or Gen Zs, we need to make our voice heard. And so I've seen some of the great things you're doing. I'm not going to go into it already. I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are and, just basically your background.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you for having me on. I'm super excited to be here. As for a little bit of my own personal background, I've always loved entrepreneurship. I've been very into the idea. In fact, our most recent Project Paralink, was born not out of a want to build a charity, but wanting to help our own professors. Originally, we wanted to build a food delivery service. Because we realized that our professors didn't have enough time to make their own breakfast or lunch, or even sometimes in the case dinner, depending on how much they're working in the morning. And the only other alternative was to get something from DoorDash or Uber Eats that's super expensive. So we built our own version of Uber Eats where we didn't charge a penny more than what the restaurant would charge. And that's kind of how it all got started. And from there, it kind of morphed into, well, there's a social need and we have a way to help it. So then it ended up kind of becoming a charity. And that's a little bit of background, I guess, about me and what we're up to today, I guess.
Edward, I want to know, how old are you?
Right now, I'm 16.
You're 16.
Hmm.
And at the age of 16, what are your colleagues doing and what are you doing different?
I'm hesitant to call out any of my personal peers because, I mean, if you would have asked me that question 2 years ago when I went to a different high school, I would have gone all out and like, okay, listen, they're sitting around, they're not doing anything all day. But I don't know if it's because of all of the recent social injustice or if it's the area that I moved to. I moved from Colorado to right here in Alpharetta, but my peers have been doing incredible work. I can give you 100 names of people who are doing incredible work that go to our school. There's a number of people building their own charities and businesses,
Wow.
and it's incredible to be surrounded by them. So it's rather not what what I am doing different, because we're all kind of inspiring each other to build these things.
Wow. So that's one thing I really, really want to stress on. A lot of people, especially our boomers these days, say, we young people or Gen Zs or millennials don't like to do anything. We're just sitting home and not, actually working or impacting the communities that we live in. What do you think the disconnect is? Like, why are they saying that? And you're saying that there's a lot of people, making an impact and doing good stuff, but we're hearing from also other people who are saying, oh, millennials just want free stuff, or we do this or we want that.
Well, I think there's a lot of a deeper connection and maybe a little bit of a deeper answer to that question, because I mean, wanting to be able to blame somebody else for issues is a very, it's a natural instinct, right? So it's very easy for the older generation to want to point down and like, you're ruining what we built, and then we can point up and say, well, you built something awful. It's very easy to do that, and I understand why there's a natural inclination to do it, but as always, there's always a mixed bag. I mean, as of right now, you Google like college kids coronavirus, you don't really get too many fantastic things on the internet.
Yeah.
So I mean, specifically in this area, I think as of recently, a lot of younger people have been extremely demonized because we are naturally more immune to the virus. Therefore, a lot of us have been doing some pretty crazy things that are not in anybody's best interest. And to some extent, it's natural because teenagers have always wanted to kind of go out there and break the rules, except right now the rules are there for a very specific reason, and it doesn't just impact them. I'm not entirely sure what causes that disconnect. I just hope
Okay.
it gets solved sometime soon. And that's been one of the main goals of the work that I've been trying to do. Rather than trying to expand new areas, I've been trying to mentor other people in those areas so that they can build their own version of what we're building. Because when you have specific leaders that you can point to, you have many examples of kids who are doing fantastic work rather than one person who's just done, the same thing a million times, right? It's harder to discredit the younger generation if you have a lot of them working individually, but also together, I guess, on a main mission. But, I don't know what causes it. I just hope it gets resolved soon because this is not a good way to be running anything.
Absolutely. Love that. Love that answer. Edward, I want you to talk a little bit about Project Paralink. How did you come up with the idea? And, tell us about your team and how everything is working.
Yeah. So Project Paralink, like I said, originally started as a food delivery service. It was super expensive, so we built our own version. And the day we launched, we got 80 professors on board of our teachers. And we were super excited. We had signed deals with Starbucks and Chick-fil-A and all these guys nearby. We're like, okay, we're going to start delivering. Now we had our own drivers. It was a crazy experience. We were super excited because it was all kind of like this crazy idea in our heads, and we didn't know if it would work. So the day we went out, we got 80 people. And we made all the deliveries. Everything went great. But the issue was that same afternoon, the first reports of COVID-19 kind of hit our school district. And so that same day, everything had shut down. And, at the time, everybody was looking at it as it was going to be shut down for only, 2 or 3 days. Nobody was really taking it seriously at the time. And then it gradually became more and more serious. But that same afternoon that everything had gotten shut down, my co-founder, my best friend, his name is Shoria Seth, he got a call from his cousin. And he's incredibly close with his cousin. To be honest, I'm a little bit jealous of how close they are. He has an amazing family life. Um, and he gets this call from a cousin. His cousin's a doctor at a local hospital just 20 minutes away in Atlanta, and he's almost weeping on the phone. He's come off of a 24-hour shift, and he's telling him about how he has been using the same PPE for the last week. All of the beds are full, and that nobody is talking about this issue because this was early March. It had hardly become an issue of, it's in the United States at that point. At that time, most of the articles were about, China and Italy.
Yeah.
So it was crazy to think that it was right here, 15 minutes away, impacting our own family members. So that same night, we decided to say, listen, we're going to completely stop doing food delivery and see if we can deliver PPE. We called 15 hospitals that same night. We asked them, what is it that we can deliver for you, and how do you need it delivered? Because you can't just walk straight through the emergency room, right? That's not safe for you or for them. So everybody has special instructions. And the next day, we went door to door to all of our neighbors. We picked up all the PPE that they had, leftover gloves and Clorox wipes and disinfectant bottles, and we made our first delivery of 500 units to a local EMS center. And that's kind of what kicked everything off. From there, we went door to door calling organizations that were doing similar things. They were trying to manufacture the PPE while we were just collecting donations. And we said, hey, we know that you guys need help distributing all this, and the only alternatives are enterprise solutions that are going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars and are probably a nightmare to run. I have no clue if this software works. It will probably crash at scale, but we're willing to give it to you free of charge, and we'll have a trial by fire. If you trust us, we'll give you all of our work for free, and hopefully it works, right? And the first day we signed this deal with Atlanta Beats COVID, a group of incredible people founded by a Georgia Tech PhD student, absolutely brilliant guy. He's taught me so much since we started. And the first day we went from, doing 500 deliveries a day of whatever items to 2,000 a day of these incredibly manufactured in people's homes and volunteer centers, PPE, face shields and masks and gowns. And from there just kind of grew. We got reached out to by a number of other organizations, Get Us PPE, largest one in the nation. And then after a bit, we decided we should start manufacturing as well. And we implemented this distributed manufacturing model. And alongside myself and four of my co-founders, Shoria Seth, Jordan Amusu, Michael Gusto, and Sahan Reddy, we just kind of expanded it. A lot of them were in charge of the software, and I got to kind of lead at it at the head and take all these calls and figure out where we needed to start helping, because there's so many communities that have been undermined during this process of COVID spreading. And yeah, that's kind of how everything took off.
So wow, that sounds absolutely amazing. Like, seeing people like you stepping up, when things are not being done well. I think that's absolutely amazing, and I commend you for that. I wanted to ask, how has the response been from the community? How has the response been from your friends, your family, after you started this project?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, it's definitely changed a lot since we started. In the beginning, nobody legitimately looked at this as a solution. People thought that this was a way for us to get extra college credit or whatever. And they're like, yeah, whatever. I'm sure they're going to be doing like, 2 deliveries a day every day for the next month. Um, and for us, it was the exact opposite. We would skip school and miss classes to be able to go talk to these professors and talk to these hospital workers to see
Wow.
how we could help them. So in the beginning, everybody took us as a joke, and especially given our age, nobody really thought what we were building was legitimate, because to go up against FEMA, which is our end goal, right? And as of right now, we're actually overtaking them in Georgia, Florida, California, and Texas.
Wow.
Which is one of my um, prouder achievements.
Yeah.
Then people start taking you a little bit seriously, regardless of your age. But in the beginning, it was definitely an interesting hurdle to get across. Most of our teachers didn't believe what we were doing was legit. They're like, yeah, they're just trying to skip class. Right? So I would have to get I remember this one time I had this Georgia Tech professor, brilliant guy in operations, and he was helping us expand into California. And I had a meeting with him in the middle of the day, and I had a math class I had to be in at the same time. And I told my teacher, and he's like, listen, I know what you're telling me isn't real. There's no way that that guy exists. Just, go to your parties. Don't do anything. So what ended up happening is like, okay, fine. I got like, originally I was like, I'm just going to leave. And then I realized like, no, I'm not going to get away. Like, I'm not going to let that happen, because that was happening with so many of my professors and so much of my friends and family. Nobody believed that what we were doing was legit. So I dragged that professor into a call with this guy and be like, here's your proof. Can you please allow us to work and allow us to make a difference? Because when you're fighting from the ground up, right, against
Mhm.
massive organizations like FEMA, and then local subsidiary GEMA, and your competitors are people who have worked in the industry for decades, not a lot of people want to take you seriously. So sometimes you kind of have to bring in that higher fighter power, I guess. And the professor, he was a little bit annoyed that he had to do it, but after that everything was kind of resolved.
Wow. That's super exciting. And so far, how many deliveries have you made?
Mm.
Because I mean, I saw some really big numbers.
Yeah, well, I'm super excited because as of a couple days ago, we just broke 1 million units delivered to 7 different states. We in actuality, we delivered to about in actuality, we deliver to about 14 states, but in mass quantity, we do it to about 7. And then additionally to the Navajo Nation, which has been completely forgotten about by FEMA. I mean, you can read some horror stories. Like, they asked for gowns and they got body bags. Talk about sending a message. Because in
Wow.
the next shipment, they were like, hey guys, sorry that we made that delivery. It was a mistake. Next shipment, they only received 5% of what they had asked for. And the majority of those supplies were expired. Like, it's been ridiculous. So we've been trying to help them as much as we can. But yeah, sorry, that's more of a personal rant. But as of right now, we broke 1 million units, and we are hoping to hit 1.5 million by the end of August.
Wow.
We're ramping up production right now, specifically as we start looking into reverse supply chains, because a lot of our shields will break after, let's say, a month and a half after extreme use by hospital workers. So we're trying to figure out how we can go back, recollect them, and then recycle that material so then we can make it even faster. And that's been super helpful. And shout out to, I don't know if he's going to watch this, but Kartik Ramanathan is a professor at Georgia Tech who gave us that idea and has actually been guiding us through that
Wow.
process. And he's been absolutely helpful. So that's kind of where we are right now. Mhm.
That's super exciting. It just makes me so happy seeing, so much impact being made and people not, actually seeing what's going on the ground and stuff like that. I haven't personally seen what's going on the ground. I haven't seen, some of the issues hospitals are facing, but I know even where I live here in Texas, it's basically a hotspot also, where, you know, we need as much PPE as possible. So how do people get in touch with you if, you know, they need PPE, or do you, you know, select some of these hospitals that need them the most?
Mhm. So in the beginning, it was extremely disorganized. We would literally cold call hospitals like, "Hey, we have PPE. Don't worry. We're not trying to sell it because these people get dozens of calls every day for marketers trying to sell it. How many do you need? We'd like to make a delivery." So originally, that's how we did it. That's how we did our first 50 hospitals. But after a while, a number of the organizations that we partnered with, Atlanta Beats COVID, Get Us PPE, and a number of other organizations started feeding us that data. So if
Yeah.
people want shields, typically they'll go through their website, submit a request, and then come to us. But as of recently, as we started to gain a little bit of media exposure online, people have just been heading to our website, and we've created a contact form where they can just kind of fill, yeah, I need stuff. And, you know, they just DM us like, hey, I know this isn't how I'm supposed to do it, but can you send over like 20 units? And, you know, occasionally I'll get a call at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and they're like, "Hey, I'm from California. I'd love to have some PPE. Like, do you think you guys could deliver some?" And they don't realize that the phone number on the website's my number, so
Oh,
they call me, and then, you know, I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'm gonna go to bed, but like we'll deliver that." Okay. Um, so that's how people have been getting in contact with us right now.
um, hey, Edward. So I see in one of your statements that you made that you said, "How can a nation be great when its kids are cleaning up the mistakes of of their government?" I want you to talk a little bit about that, and I want you to talk about the response of our government, towards this crisis.
Yeah, that one was. I think I wrote that when I was. It was. Wow. Yeah. No. That was the day when we crossed. I think it was like 100,000 deaths in the United States, and it was the same day that Forbes had reached out to us for comment. The first Forbes article, and I was at the time. I was very in my feelings about everything that was going on. It was surreal to me to see what was going on literally right next door. I mean, Atlanta is one of the most poverty-stricken cities in the United States. We have an insane level of poverty here, and to see that, you know, people in low-income communities request PPE at 0.7 times the rate at those in affluent communities, and typically have stockpiles 1/4 that of affluent communities, it scares the life out of me. They've been completely forgotten, and so many people have been completely forgotten. Right now, we're sending in high school students into, I mean, people have been likening all of this to like a war where we're
Yeah.
sending in our hospital workers without ammunition. Well, now we're doing the same thing to our students. And the crazy thing is that once again, it's the rich communities who are able to dodge the draft. Have you heard of micro schools? These people are paying
Yeah.
to take their kids out of the war and throw them into, you know, some Airbnb with incredible tutors. And we actually got a request for a field trip for one of these micro schools. And the level of, I guess, irony when we're trying to support those lower income communities that we're having. Anyway, I was when I wrote that, it was surreal to me that it seems that without care, we've been sending people back into the workforce and back to school and out into the communities again. I mean, this whole game is balancing human lives versus the impact of the economy, which is a hard thing to do, no doubt. It's been ridiculous how we've been handling it. First, from how delayed we were to signing the DPA to the, even once we did sign the DPA, how long it took those major manufacturers to get up to speed. It took the biggest ones, the quickest ones took like a month and a half to actually start producing because they had to retool most of their supplies to start making it. I mean, a month and a half in the middle of a pandemic, do you know how many people that kills? And at the same time, everybody was like, yeah, the government was like, no worries, guys, we have stockpiles to hold them off in the meantime. You look at any of those reports that came out, I can't even begin to tell you the number of states that were complaining about expired equipment. I mean, even today, we're still getting ridiculous sends. New York Times reported on this, I think, a week and a half ago. There was a major hospital in New York City, extremely well-funded, who had run out of PPE, so they requested, like a lot of other hospitals, to FEMA to deliver, and they got a delivery of 1,000 gowns, which a lot of people don't get. But almost all of those gowns didn't even have holes to put their hands through. They sent them trash bags where they had to wear it like a dress, I guess, without holes. I mean, it was like they gave them effectively trash bags and they had to cut holes in them to be able to use it. The response has been horrific, and the things that we've tried to put in place for the people who are really being hurt is next to nothing. I mean, you have two communities that are being completely destroyed right now. It's the traditionally low income communities, and it's the elderly community. I mean, how many bills have you seen passed for I I mean, anything. Right now, what we're trying to do is work with the mayor's office. Finally, we've sent them an email every other day for every other day, every week for the last 2 months, um, saying, listen, we want to make donations to your communities, but we need to know, you're the one who has the data on that. We don't have the data.
Yep.
We want to be able to help. How can we help? And we got no response. And so I went on MSNBC and I called them out. And then, they had their segment was right after hours. They had the mayor on right after hours. And then I get a call later in the day. It's like, hey, this is Keisha Lansbottom's office. We would love to work with you. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. At every level, it horrifies me to see how much we've been falling behind, because I mean, right now, at least I can only really speak to what's been going on in my local community. The Atlanta mayor and our governor has been basically like gridlocked against each other. The governor is like canceling all the mask mandates while, the mayor's trying to put them up. And it's like they're bickering over whenever or not you should force people to wear masks, that they completely forgot to ask if there even were any.
Yeah.
Atlanta does not have a stockpile. We donate to Georgia's relief system right now. It's been a horrible response by almost every level of the government. And as much as I commend the work that Lance Bottoms has been doing, trying to get people to wear masks, there's so much more work to be done. And I don't see one area in the United States where it's being done properly.
Wow. That was actually a heartfelt rant that, I think a lot of us, a lot of us have. We're seeing other countries at least, not losing the number of people being lost here in the United States, people's grandparents, and now we're even seeing kids who are being infected by this virus and passing on. So, it hurts everyone. It hurts, whether, and unfortunately, we have a community where we have a divide of the left and the right, struggling for this and that and that. And for me, obviously, I'm not originally from this country. And so seeing that divide, seeing all that happening, for me has been a tough one. I personally also want to know your views on what's going on in this country regarding social issues. I know you started talking about it earlier on. As a young man in the United States, what are some of the things that you're seeing, and what do you think we can address when it comes to social issues?
I mean, every day it's crazy to see the amount of news that gets brought up in almost every area. It's definitely hard to keep up with everything. So I've been mainly focusing myself over the last 5 months of this pandemic in really only one area, and one area that I would feel comfortable with actually speaking about.
Yeah.
And that's been the treatment of low income people in neighborhoods across the country during the pandemic. For me, this is something that's been going on for the entire history of the country, effectively. I mean, what's extremely scary to me, one of the things that frightens me the most, is that the same areas in Georgia that were redlined decades ago are the exact lines upon which you see an extreme inequality in PPE requests and COVID infections.
Yep.
The people on the inside of those red lines that were segregated across from all the suburban communities to keep them in the cities, they need so much help right now. And almost nobody's doing anything about it. And what freaks me out is that I legitimately think that the reason so little work is being done about it is that there's so many distractions being thrown into the air right now. I mean, whenever we reach out to people, either we email people, we DM them on LinkedIn, or people hear about our mission, they want to help. We say, listen, we're trying to donate PPE to the people who can't even afford to have it. That this entire time, maybe you had a few masks and you had a few shields here and there, maybe you reused some. These guys have nothing. They don't even see it, except on the floor from people who walk by and litter in their neighborhoods. I mean, we need to be able to help those communities. And when they hear that call to action, almost everybody wants to help.
Yep.
So it's incredible to me that almost nobody is. And the only reason I can see is that not enough people are talking about this, because too many people are talking about other things. And I mean, obviously, take it with a grain of salt. This is, as of right now, my life's work. I mean, I'm 16. There's not a lot of time I could have had prior to this. So this is like the most in-depth project I've ever delved into by a long shot. And it's ridiculous to me to see the amount of social issues that stem out of this, right? Because if you don't have PPE, obviously, you're going to be less healthy, more susceptible to COVID, and your same communities don't have access to the same level of healthcare that affluent communities do. So the chance that you die is a lot higher.
Yep.
Being able to get a job right now, obviously, a lot lower, and therefore being able to get PPE is a lot harder. They're stuck in a constant whirlpool, and they're in the middle of it, and nobody's coming with a fishing boat to drag them out. Everybody just kind of goes past and, to their vacation island 20 miles
Yep.
away and see all these people drowning. So to me, that's been the biggest social issue that I've been paying attention to, that I legitimately, it needs to be solved immediately, as fast as possible. And that's what we've been trying to do.
Love it, love it. Really, really, really inspired by what you just said. And talking about that, I want to know, what is the way forward? What is the way forward for your organization or for your group? Because I see so much and a tremendous future for you. I want to know what the way forward is for your group or for your organization, and I want to know the way forward for you as a person, individual.
Well, thank you first for the kind words. For the organization, there has been a lot of debate. We have an advisory council made of brilliant people, and unfortunately, I disagree with them on this issue of where we should go forward. Good thing that I'm the CEO, because right now what they want me to do is to use all of the funding we have, take 10% of it off, continue raising funding, continue expanding our own operations, and going further and further. And as much as that's a valiant effort, and I'm okay with doing that, what I really want to focus on is to begin training other people to do what we've done, to begin open sourcing everything. So I actually overruled their efforts, and by the end of August, we are open sourcing everything, every line of code, every delivery we've made, all of the data from all of our cars. We're actually going to provide all of our leftover funding to those groups that want to do it, whether they be a club in a high school, of which we're working with 17 different high schools right now to see if they can implement it themselves, or a local community chapter run by a neighborhood who has little to no access to these protections, and they want to be able to protect their neighbors and their family and their communities. That's what I honestly think the way forward is. I can't remember the quote off the top of my head, but it was something about that if charity doesn't lift the person out of the need for charity, it's not legitimate charity.
Yeah.
So it's an issue of teaching the man to fish, right? So the way forward for this organization is to be able to mentor as many people as possible so that they can build their own versions. And it doesn't need to be Paralink per se, right? It could be whatever they want it to be, as long as it's innovative and it's building something out of the dust that COVID has thrown on top of all of on top of the entire country. They need to build something that's able to protect them and their families. Because to be honest, we can't do it. We can't protect every family, but we can teach a large group of people to protect themselves. So at least for the organization, that's the way forward. As for myself, this has been an incredible learning experience, specifically in material science, that has been really interesting to me. My dream school is Stanford. I mean, I grew up right next door, and I would leave school to be able to go over there and sneak into their classes. And, granted, I didn't understand too much, but being able to be surrounded by that level of intellect and wanting to learn and motivation to build. I mean, Stanford is an extremely socially innovative university, you could say. So at least for me, I would love to be able to attend that university and continue studying material science, which has been the basis of how we decide to build these shields and these masks. Like, what do you build them out of? Right now, we're trying to build algae-based plastics to make the masks, because COVID lasts less time on them, and also they're biodegradable. And the byproduct is that you're able to desalinate water and reduce carbon dioxide. Like there's so many incredible outcomes that we would be able to have if we paid more attention to the materials. So as of recently, I've been completely falling in love with that. And I would love to be able to continue my personal development, learning in there, to see what else we can build and what other innovations there might be.
Wow. super. Hey, I'm very hopeful, and I know looking at what you're doing, just wanted to let you know you're a very selfless person from the conversation we're having, and that's great. To have people like you in our community, growing up to eventually be the head of some of bigger organizations that you create. Very excited to see what the future has for you, and I'm very, very positive that you're going to get into Stanford. I hope someone sends this video to them, or maybe I send it to them myself. But looking at what you've done, looking at what you're doing to help your community, and even communities outside your community, I'm absolutely impressed, 100% impressed, and I want to let you know that you do have a bright future. You're looking at something positive. You're looking at a future where you can impact as many people as possible, and to let you know that everyone does have a purpose on earth, and your purpose is going to inspire so many people that you'll be shocked at the impact you'll be making. I want to let you know that keep it going, never ever stop, okay? Because most often we see people who get burnt out from doing some of these, especially at such a young age. But you seem to have so much energy, and I see such a bright future for you. And before I end everything, I want to ask you, from an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, how are you doing?
Well, first, thank you for all those kind words. I mean, thank you. I'm doing a lot better after you said all of that. As an entrepreneur, you mean in today's current economic climate?
Well, I wanted to ask you how you're doing personally as a person, because most often we don't ask each other how we're doing, whether through mental health or whatever it is. I know, that's why I said from an entrepreneur to an entrepreneur, I know you're more likely to burn yourself out. You're more likely to work a lot of hours, trying to get something done. And I genuinely want to know how you're doing.
Um, I'm doing hopeful. How about you?
Um, I'm trying. It's not easy, to be honest. It's not easy, putting things together, working on something, building something, um, and just living life. It's not easy, but as you said, being hopeful is what keeps you going. It's what keeps us going. So I'm very happy to hear that you're hopeful, because that's the journey.
Thank you.
All right, Edward. I really want you to say some last words, for people out there, for young people out there, especially because this show is basically for young people, for the youth. I want you to say some last words of inspiration, of motivation, and yeah.
I'm trying to find a good Wu-Tang quote for this, and I don't think I can right now. I know I had one prepared for NSNBC, but they cut me off before I could say it. I'm just, the last 5 months have been a lesson in what you can do if you just don't stop doing. The same way you reached out to me to get an interview, we DM'd the most brilliant professors across the country at the most prestigious universities, and they responded back. And anybody can use that power. If they have a story to tell and they want to legitimately help people, people will help you.
Yeah.
And the last 5 months have kind of been a masterclass in that people want to help. And regardless of what project you're building, whether it be a charity or if it's a side hustle or it's your dream business, people will help you if you go out there and you do the work and you have a motivating story to tell. I just hope a lot of people kind of take that home with them.
Absolutely. Thank you. Hey, thank you so much for even responding to my message in the first place. I want you to know that, as I said, I've already said it. I'm going to say it again. You do have a bright future. Keep it going. And, thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this. And looking forward to see you run some bigger companies.
We'll see how it plays out. Thank you
Absolutely.
for having me on.
Have a good one.
You as well. Bye.